Well, hey guys, good day. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. Great to be with you on Inspirations for Your Life. If this is your very first time being here, I want to take the opportunity to say thank you. And of course, I want to say welcome. If you've been here one time before or many times, I want to say thank you. But of course, I want to say the words welcome back. It's always great to have people that enjoy the quality and content that I produce here on this show and all the other media that I put out there. By the way, you can check that out visiting believemeachieve.com. You can get my short form content, my long form content. Yes, you can even find out about my latest book, Drained to Driven, which you can actually get a copy of, whether you want to do it on Audible, whether you want to do an e-Kindle book, or whether you want to do the 6x9 hardcover book. Yeah, you can check that out. So, guys, if you're thirsty, if you're hungry or parched, I don't want you to be. So feel free to go grab something. I have my RO water here. With delicious lemon, and great to have that with me. And if you need some, well, feel free to go grab that and come on back to the show. All right, guys. So without any further ado, I'd like to go ahead and kick this show off right now. This is Inspirations for Your Life. This is Series 5, which means we're in our fifth year. We finished our fourth year, and that's January, February, March, April. We're on the year. So basically 4 years and 4 months. This is Series 5, Show 9, and episode number 2. And it's all about how people rebuild direction when everything gets disrupted. That's our master. And this episode of Inspirations for Your Life is with myself, John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, engineer, marketing specialist, video producer, podcast host, coach, keynote speaker, graduate student, passionate, lifelong learner. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I am a published author. I'm very grateful for that. And I'm exploring what happens after disruption when awareness sets in and returns, and people begin rebuilding direction from the instability that they had in their life. So, instability is just a sign that we can actually rebuild and we can do more in our life. All right, guys. So, this week is all about second phase of transformations, not breakdowns, but recovery of clarity. And because after everything breaks, the next stage is not action. It is a subtle sense in the beginning of awareness. Now, when systems collapse, most people think the problem is external, but the real shift is actually internal to ourselves because disruption removes structure. And without structure, awareness becomes visible again. I think that's important to note. At first, there is confusion, but underneath that noise, awareness starts returning. And clarity does not arrive all at once, guys. It returns slowly, layer by layer, as I've said before. And I think a lot of you here hopefully will understand what I mean and why I mean that, because I think that's a very important thing for all of us to note. And I think what a lot of you think of this, or when you hear of this, hopefully recognize, what's going on in your life or what's not going on in your life. I think a lot of times people, reason I think they just get sidetracked, and they get sidetracked on many, 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 many different things. It could be, like I said, a subtle awareness that changes in their life. It could be something else, right? But I think the main thing is that change is happening in people's lives. And that change is really, really important. Okay. And so when you're thinking about change, when you're thinking about how that works or how that's going to execute, you're probably saying, oh my gosh, I have no clue where I'm going to start. And so, well, you got to start somewhere, right? I mean, that's the be all end all. But I think a lot of people, they get intimidated by what is actually there and what isn't there. I think that's a very important thing for us for at least be aware of, right? Maybe it's not something simple that you're just going to learn overnight, and you're not going to learn this overnight, guys. I'm going to tell you that right now. You are not going to learn this overnight. If you think you are, well, guys, I got news for you. You are, well, very, very mistaken. So when we think about clarity, when we think about things in our life, we have to think about what's happening right now, not what was happening before. And we have to think about how is that going to change our life. right? How is it actually going to change our life? And a lot of you will say to me, John, I don't think I can make a change. And, those are important observations, right? People rebuild when everything gets disrupted, as I said. And so, going through life and understanding things and being aware of things, you get insights on how things are supposed to happen and maybe give you some tidbits about what you can do in your life to make your life a little bit better. There's always going to be people around you saying, oh, no, you can't do this. You can't do that. And they're always going to be trying to rain on your parade because they're not looking to rebuild. They're looking to, what do we call it? Complain. Yes, moan and complain. And so we have to realize that recovery is possible when we believe it is. Because after everything breaks, as I said, the mind does not restart instantly. It slowly reorganizes. Awareness returns step by step. And clarity rebuilds from the fragments that we have left. And so when disruption happens, people first experience a sense of confusion. But confusion is not the end state, guys. It is the transitional state. Because underneath confusion, awareness is trying to return. Yeah, it's trying to return, but then where do you go from there? Like, where does it come from? And once awareness returns, structure begins to rebuild, guys. It begins to rebuild, and that's the real magical part. So, number one, guys, clarity begins forming. We have to be aware of that clarity. Confusion slowly reduces as we progress on. Number three, thoughts become structured. Now, they don't start out as structured, but they become structured over time. The more we become aware, right? Number four, guys, awareness increases gradually. When awareness increases gradually, our world changes. Okay. Number five, reflection becomes active. A lot of people turn their reflection off at certain times. Why? I think because they're scared. They're afraid that they might be what they want to be. And they're not sure how to handle that. Number six, guys, emotional noise decreases. It decreases. It decreases in a way that causes us to sometimes doubt ourselves and what we're doing and why we're doing something. I think that's a very important fact that a lot of us just don't seem to, well, a lot of us don't seem to understand it. So I think that's something, really, really important to know. And so, as I said, number seven is understanding starts the rebuilding. And rebuilding is a process. It's not something that we just start, like a washing machine or a dishwasher, and it just finishes. There is more to this than just pushing a button, walking away. Number eight, guys, patterns become visible. When the patterns become visible, our life starts to change. Our life starts to change. But again, not on a dime. Not on a dime. Number nine, guys, perspective stabilizes. Perspective stabilizes. And I think that's a very important thing to note is that our perspectives become reality. And if we can stabilize our perspectives, then our reality can happen a lot sooner because we're not floundering. We're not moving all around the whole world. I think that's an important thing to definitely understand, what is going on and why are things going on. And it's important to know why these things are happening. Okay. It's important to know and be aware of these kind of things. That's probably the most important thing that I want to share with you. And so what I want to tell you is that number 10, thinking will become clearer. It might seem like your thinking is getting cloudier, but actually it's getting clearer. Okay. Slowly. Number 11, insight begins to start forming. When we get an insight, when we get inspiration, things change. Things change. And when things change and we see that there is, a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, we get a little excited. We get happy. Okay. And we get happy because we see more potential. Okay. And that's important to know. If we can realize one thing, and the one thing is that the awareness becomes the trigger for so many other things in our life. And I said that gets the insight to form, that gets the engine to start rolling again. Number 12, guys, control starts to return. We get that sense of calmness. Okay. And so when we think about that and when we know that we're calm, it's like things become easier, right? And I know you're probably saying to me, John, this makes sense, but then again, it doesn't. Well, let's think about this. If you ever could remember a time when maybe you're out of control. I know you probably were never out of control, but let's think about a time when you were out of control. And when you're out of control, things just become, well, they become different. They become, how can I say? They become more confusing, more frustrating. And the more frustrated you get, the more you just want to stop. But that's not going to go anywhere. Number 13, guys, direction feels possible. You see, when direction feels possible, our life takes on this new meaning. It takes on this new purpose. It starts to make us see why we have value. Why we have value. And that might be something you're, I'm going to say, floundering with. Okay. But it's important to know. It's important to know that you can make a complete difference in your life if you believe you can change. If you can believe you can change, you're already halfway there. Okay. Number 13, when your direction feels possible, the engine starts to begin again. Your sense of hope starts to return. You start to notice a positive chemical field that is changing who you are. And before you know it, what you kept saying was impossible now is possible. Does that make sense? That's important to know. Number 14, guys, energy becomes focused, more focused the more you're aware. And I think when we can tie our awareness into our energy, because everything in our world is energy, right? We start to gain hope again. We start to see the possibilities. We start to daydream in a way that we haven't been able to do before because we were sabotaging our own thoughts before. Number 15, reaction decreases. I said we can be reactive or we can be proactive. The best thing to do is to be proactive. When you're proactive, you are calm, right? You're comfortable and you're in control. I think that's important. Almost like wearing a very calm, comforting, in control pair of jeans, right? That you put on. It just gives you that sense of being grounded. The observation increases. And now, ladies and gentlemen, number 17, the decisions you make will improve. They'll become better. Okay? I'm not going to say they're all going to be perfect, but you're going to make better choices. Number 18, stability returns gradually. I think a lot of people get upset because they're not necessarily getting something, they're not necessarily getting what they want overnight. And I think that's something that a lot of people here say to me, John, I've been trying this, but I'm not getting where I want to be. The reason you're not getting where you want to be is you're putting too much darn pressure on yourself. Now, there's motivation, a little bit of pressure, but then there's really hard pressure that just causes you to just not move. When I talk about this in a very easy way so you can understand is friction. We need friction to be able to walk, for our cars to move. But what happens if we have too much friction? We become immobile. We stop. So a little bit of friction is good. Too much friction, no good. We completely stop dead in the water or on the tracks or on the road or wherever you are. Number 19, guys, planning replaces panic. Planning, that's being proactive, reduces the panic. Number 20, guys, learning becomes active. Learning becomes active. I think that's an important piece. Learning becomes active. Number 21, mistakes become insight. Mistakes become insight. And when the mistakes become insight, we're like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't know that that was possible. I didn't know that was possible. I think these little moments in our lives help us to see that even bigger opportunities can come, but we first have to appreciate the smaller ones. And we have to gain confidence in those smaller ones before we can move on. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I can tell all of you right now. You've got to embrace that spirit. You've got to embrace that belief. That's why believemeachieve.com is a foundation for what I do every day, a foundation for my talks, my books, for jcmacademy.com. Number 22, guys. Confidence begins rebuilding. It starts a process of rebuilding. And when we know that we're in this rebuilding state, it's like all this other stuff around us doesn't harm us, doesn't bother us, because we know we're on the way up. We know we're now building. Number 23, guys, focus improves steadily. I didn't say quickly, I said steadily, which means it's consistently improving. That's probably one of the most important things that I can tell you. It consistently improves. Consistently improves. Important, right? I think that's important to know. I think if we can understand these things, then we'll probably be able to make the better choices. We'll be able to make decisions. We're able to do it in a way that uses less energy, that makes life feel more like a flow than a restriction. Number 25, behavior becomes intentional. I've said before, when we can become intentional about our life gains purpose. It gains meaning. Keeps us more calm, comfortable, and in control of our lives. When our behavior becomes intentional. Intentional is not something you just pull out of your back pocket. Intentional is something you think about. Intentional is something that you work toward because of a core set of values. Number 26, guys. Momentum begins again. When momentum begins again, the cycle starts all over. The cycle starts all over. And when that cycle starts over, we see that it's easier. It becomes easier. And I say it becomes easier because now you're starting to align with your core values. And with the momentum flowing again, we feel good not just because of our belief, but also it's actually triggering a chemical change in our brain that is making us feel good, making us now like do more of this. It's like stroking us in a way to say, look, we have to do more of this. Number 27, guys, your clarity will now strengthen your decisions. When you make a decision with clarity, it doesn't seem so hard. It just resonates. It just flows. It just goes. And that might seem very hard for a lot of people. How can I make this decision? I don't know. Well, you'll learn by the environment, you'll learn by people. And when a decision has to be forced or pressed, guess what? That's not the right decision. You might do it in panic, but that's not the right decision. I'll see if I can give you an example. I remember doing a lease for one of my offices a while back. And I remember the process being very unsmooth. We had a landlord that was from, well, let's say he was not very nice. And things were getting harder and harder with the stuff we had to do. After I was about to sign the lease, I signed the lease, and everything was just like a battle with him. And one of the best things ever happened to me. He threatened to triple my rent. And I said the words, goodbye. I think when some people are put under pressure like that, they feel they've got to respond. I said, I just have to move. I think too many people get obsessed with the game of drama instead of distancing themselves from those type of behaviors and people that are not good for their lives. Toxic people. So I said, clarity strengthens the decisions. And number 28, guys, structure starts returning again. When structure starts returning again, we can now be consistent, right? And we can now achieve progress. To have success, we have to be consistent, and we have to have a structure. If we have a structure, we're not consistent, no good. If we're consistent, but there's no structure to what we're doing, that's a problem too. So I think these are things we have to think about. Number 29, awareness becomes consistent. The awareness of how we're being treated, the awareness of our environment, the awareness of everything. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you were aware of something? Think about it. Was it today? Was it the temperature in the room? Was it hearing somebody's voice? Was it a smoke alarm or a fire alarm going off? Was it a horn being tooted while you were in traffic trying to be patient? Was it a cell phone going off? And when those things happened, did you just kind of go into like a zombie mode? Like, here it is. And then bam, it's like, you like totally forgot you were on the phone or what you were doing. Did you become aware of those things is my question. If you didn't, then my question is, why not? Maybe you're going to say to me, John, I never realized I wasn't that aware. When you become more aware of things in your life slows down. And you have time for everything you want to do and then some. Only when you become aware of your moments. Number 30, guys, direction reappears. Direction appears when we get clarity, when we become consistent, when we have that structure, right? These are the things I think that matter, I'm going to say, the most. And they matter the most because they get us thinking a certain way, a way that maybe we weren't before. The question you might be asking yourself is, hey, John, why wasn't I thinking this way? Well, I wasn't always thinking this way. Something happened, and it got me to change my thoughts of what I'm doing and why I'm doing something. I'm going to give you another example. I was talking to somebody, it was an acquaintance today, via text on social media. And I was telling about an event I was throwing. And they were so sidetracked telling me that, they're going to this event and yada on that day. But really, it wasn't that day. It was today. And that's how disconnected they were from society. And people like that, over time, I don't waste time with them. And if they become a nuisance, I block them. You see, it works two ways. When you could be nice to somebody and you could be intentional, that's one thing. But when those people become me first and you second, it's time to say goodbye. As this process, ladies and gentlemen, unfolds, something important happens internally. We can call it a shift, but know that people stop reacting and start observing their life and other people's life. And that shift changes every observation creates understanding, and understanding creates direction. At first, everything feels, but instability is not failure. It is an adjustment from data. The mind is no longer operating in old patterns. It is learning to rebuild structure in real time. Clarity does not return all at once, as I said. It returns gradually through awareness. Each improvement builds on the last. Each insight reduces confusion. Each correction strengthens the direction. Planning begins replacing panic. Learning becomes active again instead of reactive. Mistakes are no longer setbacks, and they become, as I said, more data for us to process. And data becomes insight. Confidence begins rebuilding slowly, not from certainty. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Be sure to check out BelieveMeAchieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations. Have a great one, everyone, and be well.